Yeah. I know. Got a couple shorties here. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Detroit Route Zero press conference. I'm Elizabeth Hauptman, the Michigan Field Coordinator with Moms Clean Air Force, which is a nationwide organization of 1.5 million moms and dads, caretakers, united in our fight against air pollution and addressing the urgent crisis of our changing climate to protect our children's health. We work for a safe and equitable future where all children can breathe clean air. Our efforts and the efforts of many organizations and leaders, including those standing with me here today, have helped put us on the path to fully electrifying our transportation system so we can reach zero emissions. And on that path that we're traveling on is Route Zero. And I can't think of a better place than here in the Motor City for our journey to pass through. Michigan is the world leader in the auto industry, and that leadership has included innovation. Along with recent advancements in battery development, manufacturing technology, there's also been several critical pieces of legislation and government actions that are helping spur their transition to hybrids and electric vehicles. Here in Detroit, the city recently announced that its municipal parking department fully converted its fleet to all electric, featuring 48 new Chevy Bolts. And Michigan state government, along with city businesses groups, have announced several initiatives to promote electric vehicles. This includes turning this stretch of Michigan Avenue into the country's first EV charging road, which is one of the reasons why we're gathered at this location. At the federal level, the Inflation Reduction Act, passed last year, includes tax incentives for purchasing EVs, and the bipartisan infrastructure law provided billions for building a national EV charging network. And then in mid-April of this year, the EPA announced a new round of clean car standards that will result in an estimated 67% of all new car and light-duty truck sales being EVs by 2032. Now we need the EPA to make sure these standards are as strong as possible and finalize them as quickly as possible. And it is important that we all engage on this issue. The EPA's public comment period for clean car standards is currently open, and our Route Zero Relay is encouraging folks across the country to submit comments urging strong clean car standards. We will deliver these comments to the EPA's headquarters in DC at the end of the comment period. These boxes by the podium are just props that represent the public comments we are collecting on our Route Zero Relay. But we encourage everyone to submit public comments and call on the EPA to pass strong clean car standards. Directions for submitting these comments online are on the place card in front of this podium. Just go to www.regulations.gov and identify your comment with a docket ID number listed on the place card on the podium. We'll be collecting comments here today, as well as on the Route Zero Relay's next stop in Cleveland, Ohio, before taking them all to EPA headquarters in Washington, D.C., before the comment period closes on July 5th. My fellow speakers are an amazing group of individuals working at all different areas and levels to help speed our way to Route Zero. They're going to elaborate on these zero emission initiatives and explain why they're so important to reducing air pollution, protecting public health, boosting our economy, helping deliver justice to frontline communities, and providing the important step forward in addressing the climate crisis. So without any further delay, I'm honored to introduce Michigan State Senator representing the 3rd District, Stephanie Chang.
Well, good morning. Thanks everyone so much for being here. My name is Stephanie Chang. I'm the state senator for Senate District 3. And as someone who has had the honor of serving much of Detroit and a number of environmental justice communities over the past 8.5 years, this issue is something that I greatly care about. I'm also a mom who cares about clean air for my children, and someone who is a daughter of a father who has worked in the auto industry for many, many years. The progression of switching over from gas-driven cars to electric cars will greatly benefit Detroiters from an economic and public health perspective. Low-income communities and communities of color are too often carrying the burden of, of climate change. We can see this happening across Detroit and the surrounding area where air pollution from heavy trucks, as well as many industrial facilities, has caused asthma, COPD, and other respiratory diseases in adults and their young children. Just in Wayne County alone, there are over 30,000 children who suffer from asthma. Most recently, you probably saw earlier this week, Detroit was ranked number 3 in the world for having the worst air quality according to IQ Air. And I want to pause for a moment to note that air quality has been getting a lot of attention over the past week or so due to the Canadian wildfires, but we all know, especially here in Detroit, that air quality is a concern every day and something that we need to have at the top of our mind, wildfires or not. But we're grateful that finally, air quality concerns are getting the needed attention that it deserves. Not only have heavy trucks and gasoline-fueled cars harmed the quality of the air that we breathe, but also led to an increase in heat waves, devastating storms, and flooding. Examples of this are the heat streak that we all suffered from recently, as well as the back-to-back flooding that our neighbors in my district in Jefferson Chalmers and others on the east side of Detroit and throughout this area faced in 2021 and will continue to face unless we take bold action on climate change, including what we're talking about here today. We cannot continue down that route and let our future generations suffer the consequences of their predecessors. But the good news is that with investment in cleaner energy standards and the advancement of electric cars, there is a chance for us all to build a healthier and more sustainable environment for our children. I encourage everyone to support the EPA's clean energy rules for clean cars and trucks so that we can move toward a zero-emission world for a healthier future for our children. You can do that by submitting a comment on the EPA's website. I will now turn it over to Representative Donovan McKinney.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much to Route Zero, as well as the coalition partners here today, bringing the Route Zero relay to Detroit. For those who don't know, Detroit has a rich automotive history. We put the world on wheels. Now it's time to put the world in cleaner vehicles as well as EVs. For those folks who don't know, I have the honor and the privilege to represent the Michigan House District 14. That includes parts of Northeast Detroit, majority of the city of Warren, and all of the city of Centerline in Macomb County. In my district alone, I have about 7 or 8 Chrysler facilities. I border a GM Tech Center. I have a slew of suppliers, and there's not a day that goes by I don't see a bunch of trucks going back and forth, 18-wheelers as well as diesel smoke engines, smokestacks that we see in our communities that have hindered people's air quality in my neighborhood as well as across the district, across the city, and across the region. For those folks who don't know about the Canadian wildfires that have happened that just happened, we are still under an air quality alert today as we speak because of those wildfires. It's already heightened air quality issues in our community, and just this right now with the wildfire just added more flame to the fire. What we absolutely need to do is encourage EPA and demand the President and Congress to pass not only clean energy standards, but clean car and clean vehicle standards. We are in dire need, not only of these rules and guidelines, but legislation giving the agency, EPA, as well as EGLE on the state level, the teeth and the necessary and the necessary rules to enforce. That's really the major issue that is going on in our communities. And it's a big environmental justice issue for those who don't know. I have folks in my community, especially me and my family. I have a wife at home and a 16-month-old baby boy. He's showing early signs of asthma. I have asthma growing up on the northeast side of Detroit. And that's pretty much the norm in our communities. I have folks that I had to tell earlier this week, please do not go outside because you might have an attack. that can pretty much you could lose your life from. A lot of folks don't know that as you get older. I got community residents right now who tell me they're going through pulmonary issues, respiratory issues, a lot of them showing cancer. And it's because of the communities we live in, it's because of the air pollution that we have to go through and endure. This is not a partisan issue. I say that again, this is not a partisan issue. We have to really deliver justice for all, environmentally, as well as doing with our air and water. But this is just a great thing, and I'm just so glad for Route Zero for being here in Detroit. And I will say this is the last thing before I pass the mic. I had the opportunity to go to Mackinac Policy Conference last week. And on the way up, I spent a week there. I brought the family. It was the first time I've been in about 10 years. And this is the first time my family has ever been. And the air quality up there is phenomenal. Like, this is like literally the first time I've been in 10 years, I can breathe. Like, literally, I can breathe in Mackinac. But when I came back home, back to the district, back to Detroit, it's hard to breathe. And there's countless others struggling with the same issue. It's time for us to deliver not only clean energy, but clean air to our residents and our communities and our loved ones. Thank you so much for the time, and I'll pass it over to Pastor Glass. Please come up here, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Route Zero, for giving me an opportunity to express my passion and express my concerns about the clean air in Detroit. I am pastor of Lord of Lords Ministries on the east side of Detroit, 9341 Chalmers. I am the president of Ministers United and a board member of Michigan IPL. And I am excited about EVs. I am an EV enthusiast. I own an EV. I enjoy driving the EV. I enjoy the fact that I don't have to have oil changes. I don't have to stop at a gas station. I save a lot of money. And I am just proactive when it comes to making this transition and this shift. This is an opportunity for us as Michiganders, an opportunity for us because I represent clergy and I represent the kingdom of God. And so one of the things that we teach is that we are stewards over our environment and we are stewards over our bodies. And so if we're stewards of our environment, we must care for it, we must cultivate it, we must take care of it, and we have to be careful what we breathe. So I just believe that all of us that is a part of clergy should embrace this opportunity. We always get the bad news, but this is an opportunity to bring some good news to the inner city and to the Michiganders. So I encourage you and I challenge you to reach out to the EPA, reach out to the Biden administration and encourage them and do it as an urgent assignment and encourage them to give us the clean air, give us that environment that we desperately need. Again, as the state representatives have said, we have got bad grades, F and D. That's not good. We should have A's and B's. So that means that we need to do a better job and we need to keep the pressure on those who make the decisions so we can breathe good and clean air. Thank you, and I turn the mic over to Elaine Elliott.
Thank you, Pastor Glass. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elaine Elliott, and I am the chapter director with Sierra Club Michigan chapter. Like so many Detroiters, or like too many Detroiters this week, I found myself reaching for my inhaler and struggling to control my asthma more than usual because of the wildfire smoke that's blowing over from Canada. And it was a humbling and sad reminder of where we are in climate right now. We know that wildfires are burning more intensely and they're burning longer because of climate change. And it is just one of the factors that we need to address if we're going to continue to be caretakers and stewards of this planet. So we know that unfortunately some communities in Detroit specifically, but all over the country, experience the impacts of climate change first and worst. They have higher rates of asthma, they have higher rates of cancer. My family is from Detroit zip code 48217, which is one of the most polluted in the states. And I felt the impact of what bad air does to you, does to your health, does to your physical health, but also does to your mental health because of where my family lived, ultimately due to redlining. It should never be the case that your education level or your wealth level or your zip code dictate the quality of life that you experience in this country. And that is why we need the EPA to enforce stricter clean car standards so that we can deliver on the vision that all people think of when they think of America, and so that folks don't have to go to Mackinac to experience fresh air for the very first time. And I want to reiterate, you don't need to be an expert. I started organizing as a teenager and just sharing my thoughts and what I wanted to see for myself and my community. We need to hear from all people. We need to hear from young people, seniors. We need to hear from community members or folks who just would like to go to work and bike outside and run outside without being fearful that they will have an asthma attack. And so I need everyone to reach out to the EPA. Tell them the vision that you would like to see for your community. Reiterate how important it is for you to have clean air and help them deliver on clean car standards that will get us there as fast as we can. Thank you. Now I'll pass it back to Elizabeth.
I'm honored to join you today to talk about the enormous health benefits that come from reducing tailpipe pollution. I'm Elizabeth Hauptman, and I live in Livingston County with my family, and I'm the Michigan Field Coordinator for Mom's Clean Air Force. We have over 34,000 members here in Michigan and over 1.5 million nationally fighting for clean air and climate action for the sake of our children's health and future. Strengthening the EPA standards for cars, trucks, and buses is an important step forward in protecting our families from dangerous tailpipe pollution, which is a significant contributor to climate change and other harmful health impacts. Parents in Michigan want to see a rapid transition to zero-emission vehicles. Pollution harms all of us, but it disproportionately impacts children. Climate change and air pollution impact our children's developing brains, bodies, and lungs. Kids are smaller, they breathe more rapidly, and their bodies and brains are still growing. Michigan has some of the worst asthma rates in the country, according to the American Lung Association. My son and niece have asthma. We often check weather reports to see if it's safe to go outside. We have 12 counties with failing air quality grades. Genesee, Ingham, Monroe, Saginaw, Wayne counties, as well as the city of Detroit, have asthma hospitalization rates significantly higher than the state as a whole, according to Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Childhood asthma rates are significantly higher for children of color. Latino children are twice as likely to die from asthma, and black children are 10 times more likely to die from asthma than white non-Hispanic kids. And children who live near highways find that their illnesses are exacerbated due to pollution. Many neighborhoods and schools are adjacent to large industrial facilities with large trucks driving to and from these cities. About 69,000 Detroit residents live within 150 meters of a major freeway, and 58 Detroit public schools with an estimated 24,490 students are within 200 meters of a major roadway. In addition, for our families, climate-driven extreme weather, like intense heat days, flooding in the spring, and droughts are taking a toll on our mental health. Children are feeling more anxious about climate change, especially after a major climate event like these wildfires. But here's the good news. The EPA can calm those fears by choosing the strongest tailpipe protections. And Michiganders have every reason to embrace these stronger pollution standards for all the reasons just outlined. So make no mistake, Parents around the country want to see a rapid transition to zero-emission vehicles. We don't have time to waste. Please hear the urgency in my voice, and for the sake of my son and children of Michigan, we need the EPA to keep their foot firmly on the accelerator when it comes to strengthening pollution standards. And please remember this, we parents will always have your back and will work together to protect our children and stabilize our climate. And with that, I'd like to open up the floor to anyone who has any questions for our speakers today. Well, with that, I will just end the conference and thanking everyone for attending this conference today, and thank you very much.